Hi everybody, it's Ron again, and we're going to today go through the daily headlines on Drudge again. This is the second time doing it. I think it's kind of interesting. For those of you who want to understand why I would use Drudge as the source of the news headlines, I put an explanation of that in the first video. I'll drop a link in the description, because many people think it's a very right-wing sort of listing, but it's certainly alarmist, and these stories are read by news organizations around the world that point out interesting stories to direct the readers to. So it does have an influence. So let's get right to it. And today here we have Biden again. He seems to be working hard and as elderly as ever, trying to support both Israel and Ukraine. And here's this article that U.S. leadership holds the world together. Perhaps this is a gaffe that you would think, he probably shouldn't say that, even if it's true. But yeah, the U.S. pays a lot to fund a lot of things and their troops in so many different countries. Is my printer just going? I printed something a long time ago, so that's a long buffer. And wow, today, we have the videos that are circulating around of how strangely a droopy Biden's face has looked. It certainly must be a difficult thing to fly around and be president. I'm not sure if he really should be president, but he is, and I do wish him well. And I don't know. You certainly have to feel that a lot of countries are maybe sensing American dotage or weakness at this point, and they're stretching their muscle while they can. And so we have all these headlines. As I always said about Drudge, if you're the nervous type or the anxiety-ridden type, as I am, you probably do not want to be reading this. Or I used to look up this page in the middle of the night, and I just couldn't sleep, because these are all alarmist. And again, I mentioned this before, but you see how this is like an old-timey headlines from the 20s, where you have the big bold letters, and that's really it. So we move down to here. This is probably of interest to a lot of people, and obviously it's going to cause many people to be concerned. U.S. warns every American abroad to be cautious. It's probably no surprise that as part of this move by Hamas, that it could be heightened difficulties, or Americans abroad could be very soft targets to hit in this wave, to break international resolve. Sometimes I believe in the past, when the U.S. has issued travel warnings for certain countries, it's mainly because those countries are perceived enemies. Maybe there's nothing to be dangerous about it. It's like another way to have a travel embargo. But certainly something like this seems to be backed up by events in the world. And there's a classic kind of Drudge report page there. So we go down here. We're seeing Silicon Valley ditches journalism, shaking unstable industry. Now, this is, I think, I haven't read this one exactly, but, maybe if in the 10 years ago, there was the buying up of different newspapers, big news, things like the Washington Post, and there was all the controversy about the syndication of news and the pain of it, and it just seems like those industries have continued to be shaken by online, now probably AI-generated garbage stories. It's hard to see where, on one hand we have the polarization and many journalists not being objective or even trying to be at all, and on the other hand we have the continuing destruction of traditional journalism by online. And Drudge Report was part of that, because when Drudge Report came out big in the 1990s, not only did they reveal some scandals that the rest of the press was not reporting on, but it kind of proved that this new thing called the internet, these online bulletin board things, could compete with the bricks and mortar, the established journalistic entities. Jon Stewart's show is ending. He was kind of funny, maybe too partisan, but kind of seemed like a smart guy. Well, he's still around, but I'm sure he'll find something to do. He is one of those guys, he's been around since, yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the reason, and I some people may object, like, why am I blocking the ads on this on this view? And it's because I do not want to see yellow toenails, pussy things getting pulled out of ears. As long as all of these media sites are putting these horrible, stupid, awful ads, and they'll say things like, wherever you are in the world, it'll say, this family in, and then they insert the city. So if you were in Jakarta, it'd say, this family in Jakarta is making $1 million last month. See how you can do it. It's all this horrible clickbait stuff. So as long as there's ugly things on the screen in terms of ads, I don't want to see that. I don't want to show that to people. I was going to say Jon Stewart. I remember him back for the Larry Sanders shows back in the 1990s. He had a little movie career. Then he hit big with The Daily Show. Probably left that a little too soon. A lot of people left, in the U.S., a lot of people left the kind of late night talk shows when they thought Hillary was going to be elected, and they weren't interested in ridiculing her, supposedly. It just seemed like a good closing spot. And then Trump got in. I'm sure a lot of people wished they'd stay because there's a lot more to make fun of. Twilight of Mitt Romney, kind of interesting and unique. Mormon. I'm not a Mormon. I kind of like Mormons. They're interesting, unusual, for whatever you want to say about them. They're nice people. It seems like something about that makes them super nice. And Mitt Romney was one of them, a good old-fashioned businessman Republican. Don't know if, it seems like with somebody like this, his name floated. I bet there are people circling the election, the next election in 2024 to see what happens, because it's highly unstable with how Trump is, what he's doing, the legal things, and then Biden, and then the vice president perhaps not being a good choice. That would be if Biden doesn't live out his term. I wouldn't want that, but seems a distinct possibility if you watch him speaking. Lots of stuff about Tesla. I've heard so much about that. My opinion is Elon Musk likes to talk a lot, and he overpromises and says things way before they come to pass. Again, a few days ago I saw an interesting article about where's his truck. He had that super cool exotic electric truck that was going to just turn all of the industry in the U.S., the heavy truck makers around the world, on its ear. And I know that various other big traditional truck engine companies, for instance, like Cummins, in the last few years, they've moved very aggressively to acquire other battery making companies, their patents, so they can compete with this rumored next age of electric vehicles. Because if they move into trucks and you got self-driving trucks going around, it's going to put a lot of people out of work. It's going to put a lot of big companies out of work. Let's go down here. Stanford scientists, we don't have free will. I don't know. Yeah, free will seems like an illusion sometimes, doesn't it? Especially when times in the world are kind of crazy. I really don't know. Most of the time when you see media articles like this about science or health, it's very speculative and not really worth much. They just hype up little odd things that might be clickbaity. Russia detaining a journalist. Yeah, I've heard that before. Pence campaign sputters. Low enthusiasm. He's a low energy guy. That was a former vice president with Trump. Other people I don't care about. Maryland judge shot and killed inside his home. It's a good old classic kind of headline for the 1930s. Rolling Stone, this is kind of cool. When I read this, I went and I started on the Rolling Stone YouTube site. They have the audio from all of these songs, and there's some good ones. They sound good. There's one in my queue I haven't watched yet that has it's a duet with Paul McCartney. So wow, I hope I can get to 80. I hope I can at least be as limber as some of these 80-year-old guys. Or Madonna, 65. Everyone likes to make fun of her, but more power to her, trying to always be relevant. Why not? CEO departures hit highest level on record. Again, this is something that usually presages a downturn in the economy. It's been for the U.S. and there goes the world usually. So the U.S., say at the end of each decade, the end of the 80s, the end of the 90s, end of the 2000s, you have a kind of rupture, something, savings and loans, banks, the mortgage crisis, something, kind of a reset for the economy. And because of all the pumping of money into the economy, the trillions of dollars every year that they're inventing right on paper, they've kind of forestalled that. So it's been quite a long time since we had a crash and that kind of panic. But I think people kind of feel that this correction must be coming. And you see, CEOs would be people, their job is to keep their fingers on the pulse of this sort of eventuality, to chart their business and make sure it's going up quarter on quarter, year on year, and to see this would show that people are saying, okay, I want to get out at the peak, like selling your stock at the peak. Yes, here's more sell signs all over the stock market. High treasury rates. Again, this is people getting out at the peak because they're anticipating a dip. And with the uncertain presidential election in the U.S., we would expect that to also contribute to that. It's kind of an unusual situation. There are front runners, but almost at the same time, we don't expect them to be front runners. We don't really expect Biden to really run or Trump to really win after everything that has happened. So here we have more stuff about Israel and Palestine. That's all very sad. Feud of the century. Soaking in hot tub has the same health benefits as 30-minute jog. Again, this is something that I guess Sun is a tabloid, but the stories are fun. This is the sort of layman's health story that probably is just one random study somewhere. Here's 20 people they did. So, I don't know. It still feels good to be in a hot tub. And let's check out this column here. China's nuclear arsenal on track to double. That's not good, obviously. China is an interesting question mark, I think, right now. The economic downturn, the demographic problem, maybe as we do more of these, we can get into more of the interesting question of China. China went through a long period where the powers were divided between many different factions or people in different positions at the top, and this guy the current guy has consolidated all of that, and China seems to be heading into some crisis situation, perhaps. India uses widespread internet blackouts to mask domestic turmoil. That's one way to do it. You know, there's a lot of, they have this supposedly right-wing government. I don't know. As an American, I would see and interpret in the broadest sense India as just one of those countries that is very inward-looking. Seems like they should be a big expansionist power, but they really protect their economy, and it's kind of retarded their growth. See, they've grown in spite of all that. Something about UK Conservatives and Labour, scintillating. It's more about this speakers of the House. You know, to me, and this is a very cynical view, you know, Congress is there to spend money, and the more that they don't do anything, probably the better. Wild-hair former rocker promises to remake Argentina if elected president. Yeah, he does look like a former rocker, doesn't he? This guy, he's got his sideburns, and he's a little chubby. And sounds like another populist wave moving across the world. You know, maybe we'll get into some of those sort of things later on. Maybe I can have some guests on here and we can talk about that. So anyway, this is the news of October the 20th, and trying to look at it and add maybe a little bit of context. Probably shouldn't have closed that. Now I'm little on the screen. But before I left, I wanted to mention this. I'm an author, and my new novel is There Are Still Unknown Places. This is a novel of Bangkok about the people and their lives. And what I wanted to do was give Thailand, I'm trying to make this, there we go, give Thailand a book like A Passage to India has for India, or Burmese Days has for Burma. Now, I know it's presumptuous of me to even say that my book within the same video or same country mile as any of those, but that is something that I tried to do, and I think it has a lot of heart. You can get it on Kindle for real cheap, and it's on Amazon, and it's on tobangkok.com. So thanks very much. If you like this video or like this concept, you could say something in the comments or give it a like or watch it, and I'll be back for the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.